First of all, these waves are screaming to you to not come in. And then to put your child in that situation and to record it.
Do you have any idea how rare your body is? 0.007% of people are born with 6 fingers or 6 toes. 2% of people have a longer second toe than their big toe. 10% of people have a ring finger that's longer than their index finger, usually due to higher exposure to testosterone during their fetal development. 10% of people have an extra spleen, and some people have up to 5 extra spleens? What? 25% of people have the thumb joint that bends backwards. I don't know if that counts or not, but I can do that. Wee woo, wee woo. 1 in 10,000 people are born with their organs on the opposite side of their body. 35% of people can gleek, but only 1% of people can do it on command. 11% of people have a small bump on the edge of their upper ear. 0.5% of people have eyes that have one color in the center and another around the edge. 9% of people have a gap between their 2 front teeth. I think I'm good. 5% of people have a double crown on their scalp where the hair swirls in 2 directions instead of 1.
These are the beauty standards from around the world.
Today we're talking about the Jaws movie animatronics and how huge they are and how gross and terrifying they also are. So this was a little drawing schematic that was put out for the Jaws movie and like how they were filming it. And like, look up here, that's what it looked like underwater. This disgusting, look, there were 2 people in the water in scuba suits with cameras to film them. This would be $1 million a day job for me to hold that. I could not. This is really icky. Not that icky because it's not in the water yet, but these hydraulics that I know are gonna go in the water, yay. Why is bro booping his snoot like it's a cute little puppy? That is not a puppy, that is terror. Also, why would you do this? Why would you get in the mouth of an animatronic shark? This is fake for TikTok. This is fake. It's a fake shark. Do not do this at home. Why would you do this in the first place? Is that Steven Spielberg? I don't know what he looked like in the 70s. This is icky. This is an icky photo. I don't like this at all. I showed this one in the video yesterday of how big it is in comparison to a human. That is also from the video yesterday talking about the animatronic and Japan. You know what this reminds me of? This picture of the animatronic shark? It reminds me of the shark, robot shark from James and the Giant Peach. Does anyone remember this? I was terrified of this at 3 years old. So yeah, could you work on the Jaws ride movie if we were to go back in time? I bet not.
Hate all you want, but this right here is the peak male form. The endgame of evolution and natural selection's strongest soldier is the proboscis monkey, and it is the most interesting monkey in the world. Chances are, you've never seen one in a zoo. I think it's so the simian sex symbol doesn't destroy every man's body image. I also believe the facial flesh sac amplifies their calls. Go ahead, look up the sound proboscis monkeys make. It's not what you think. As you can see, the monk with the trunk is built different. Breaking down all those leaves is why the Nariz warrior has a pot belly. Also, their nickname is Orang Balanda, which is a Malay word for Dutchman. Jury's on who exactly should be offended. They also have webbed feet, and that's cause not only are they arboreal, the sinus soldier can swim. One of the underappreciated rough drafts of nature, and one of the many you can see on National Geographic's Underdogs, a show about animals that don't get talked about nearly enough. And you can catch him and that beak on Underdog, streaming now on Disney Plus and Hulu. The more you know.
Facts that I wish I didn't know. When you die, the last thing to go is your hearing. So as all your other mortal sensations are leaving this world, the last thing you're ever going to experience are the sounds going on around you, which very well could be like your family members crying or cheering. By the year 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish. When pigs get a cold, like a cough, very often they will shoot their intestines out of their anus, and farmers have to, like, stuff it back in.
Babies who were born on the literal perfect day. Back in 2019, a baby girl was born on July 11th, making the date 7/11. Well, the baby was also born at 7:11 p.m. and the baby also weighed 7 pounds and 11 ounces. From this, the convenience store 7-Eleven saw this and gave the baby $7,111, making this baby the most 7-Eleven baby in history. Next, in 2022, this baby girl was born at one of the craziest times possible because she was born on February 22nd, 2022, which is 2/22/2022. But she was also born at 2:22 a.m. and she weighed 7 pounds and 10 ounces, which makes her a total 122 total ounces. And I can't forget that she was born in room number 2 of the hospital. This is absolutely wild.
The baby at the end of 28 years later is completely immune to the rage virus. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I suggest you click off. So when Spike and his mom are in the train, they all of a sudden run across an infected, who seemed to be more normal than not. She was actually holding Isla's hands as she was giving birth, and ends up giving birth to a baby. The mother then completely turns, she ends up getting unalived, and Spike and his mom run out of the train, with of course said baby. Now here's why I think the baby's completely immune. It's because we've seen immunity in this series before. A lot of people like to say that 28 weeks later has nothing to do with the premise of the story, because it's different characters and in a different time frame. Why were some of the clips from 28 weeks later used in 28 years later? If that were the case, this would completely add up perfectly, because how could we add something new to an already zombie movie? People who are immune. Spike of course then names the baby Isla after his mother, who ends up passing away, and leaving her back where Spike ended up growing up, with of course his dad. Now this is just my theory, because even the doctor said, oh, the placenta must have been able to keep her away from the rage virus. But like I've said, we've seen this before. We've seen people be infected and not be infected who have been bit by the same exact zombie. Take it the whole family from 28 weeks later minus the dad. I'm just saying, this would be a crazy setup.
This elephant killed a woman and then crashed her funeral. In 2022, 70-year-old Maya Murmur was gathering water near her home in India. It was supposed to be a routine task, but that morning, a herd of wild elephants emerged from the nearby forest. Most villagers know to keep their distance. Maya tried to flee, but one elephant broke away from the group, chased her down, and trampled her with brutal force. She died at the scene. Her grieving family arranged a funeral later that day. As is custom, Maya's body was placed atop a wooden pyre for cremation, a solemn ritual under the open sky. But then, thunderous footsteps echoed in the distance. The same elephant had returned, and this time it brought reinforcements. A stampede of elephants crashed into the village mid-funeral, sending terrified relatives running for cover. In a scene that defied any logic, the very elephant that had killed Maya pulled her lifeless body from the pyre and trampled her a second time. Her remains were left mangled, and the ceremony was left in ruin. This elephant must have had some personal issues with Maya, and this death is just extremely unfortunate.
Pictures you have to look at twice to understand. This toothpaste looks like a nose. Yeah, I wouldn't use that. This person's fried egg ended up looking like a chickadee. Whoa. This girl looks like she has extremely skinny legs, but it's actually just her track pants. This magazine cover looks like this woman's face. Oof. It looks as if these people are on a really tall building, but if you turn the image sideways, they're actually just lying down. By the way, did you know you can customize the font on your phone to make it look like your handwriting? Just press this button on my profile and try it. Why do these steaks look like my runners? Now that's what you call fast food.
We have some crazy things happening in the world right now. Kim Jong-un watched as North Korea's newest warship literally fell off the dock. A man proposed to his girlfriend with a tornado swirling in the background. Nvidia is attempting to create an entire digital twin of the Earth. Rockstar changed the appearance of a character from the GTA 6 trailer after a Florida man claimed it was him and asked for money. AI can now guess passwords with 93% accuracy just by listening to the sounds of your keyboard keystrokes over Zoom. Can you guess that? Russian scientists thawed out 300 worms from Siberian permafrost, and 2 of them that are both over 30,000 years old came back to life. Don't think that's gonna end well for us. This is the world's last known white giraffe, and he is being tracked by a GPS after his female counterpart and calf were taken out by poachers.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Episode 20. Number 1. Coffin births. This is a rare phenomenon that is scientifically known as post-mortem fetal extrusion. It occurs when a pregnant woman dies and her body expels the fetus. The gases in the abdomen builds up and then forces the stillborn fetus out. Number 2. Jeannie, the feral child. Discovered in 1970, Jeannie was a girl who had been kept isolated by her family in Los Angeles for over a decade. She was almost entirely mute and had barely any exposure to human interaction or the outside world. Number 3. The Green Children of Woolpit. In the 12th century, 2 children with green-tinted skin appeared in the village of Woolpit in England. They spoke an unknown language and only ate raw beans. Eventually, their skin lost its green color and they adapted to normal food. The origin of these children still remains a mystery. Number 4. The Hinterkaifeck murders. In 1922, an entire family was mysteriously murdered at their farm in Germany. Reports found footsteps leading to their farm, but not away. This case was never solved. Number 5. The Gimpy plant, also known as the plant. It's only found in Australia. This plant's sting is so painful that its neurotoxins cause too much pain. It drives people and animals to unalive themselves. Number 6. The Devil's Kettle. In Minnesota, United States, there is a waterfall that splits into 2. One side flowing into a river and the other side vanishing into a hole. Scientists still don't know where that water goes. Number 7. NASA would never release information about asteroids approaching Earth. Not because they're worried about us freaking out. It's because we don't have the technology to detect if there are asteroids coming from very far away. Number 8. Human extinction. This is linked to number 7. We can't really confirm if any asteroids are coming to hit us because in 2017 an asteroid named AG-13 was about to hit Earth with less than the distance of the moon. The asteroid flew so fast, scientists were only able to see it 48 hours before it could have hit Earth. This is real information. Let me know if you want part 21.
¡Me dispararon! ¡Me dispararon! ¡Me dispararon! ¡Hermano! ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó?
This miraculous staircase defies the laws of physics and no one even knows who built it. In 1878, they're building this chapel in Santa Fe, New Mexico when all of a sudden the French architect leading the construction just dies out of nowhere. The chapel was almost done, but a crucial staircase to the choir loft was never finished, and without the architect, no one knew how to do it. So the nuns of the chapel prayed to Saint Joseph for 9 days straight for someone to be sent to finish building these stairs. And lo and behold, at the end of the 9th day, a man with a toolbox riding a donkey comes into the chapel from across the desert. He tells the nuns he was sent there to finish building the stairs, but they had to grant him complete privacy during the entire process. He takes 3 months to fully construct this spiral staircase that leads into the upper loft and then just leaves without telling anyone. This is where it starts to get crazy. The nuns realized they didn't even pay him, so they went to their local lumberyard to ask how much they owed for this project. The lumberyard workers tell the nuns that no one ever came to get wood from them to build those stairs. And this is in the middle of the desert in 1878, mind you. Wood is not easy to come by nor transport. There wasn't no Home Depot door delivery service back then. Upon closer look at the staircase, the chapel curator realized not a single nail was used in its construction, yet it somehow was held up up perfectly secure, measuring 20 feet high and making 2 full turns without any support from a central pole. He brings in over 120 spiral staircase experts to investigate it further, and not one of them could explain how this set of stairs was built. They described it as being physically impossible to create. Even stranger still, the exact wood used to build the staircase was confirmed to be a type of spruce which is not native to New Mexico and is also scientifically not identified anywhere else in the world. This is the mystery of the Loretto Chapel and its miraculous staircase, which still remains unexplained today. The sisters of the chapel believe that Saint Joseph, who was a carpenter, came and built those stairs himself, which also happened to have exactly 33 steps, commonly regarded to be the age of Christ at the time of his crucifixion.
The most dangerous Olympic sports is called luge. In a nutshell, 1 or 2 people who are called lugers will ride a sled down a hill as fast as they can. This hill is this narrow ice track. In 1986, a luge track was built on a ski hill in Alberta, Canada. This track and the surrounding ski area was called Canada Olympic Park. After the Olympics were over, this park was open to the public for recreational purposes. Nearly 30 years later, 3 teenage boys snuck into Canada Olympic Park after hours. They made their way up the hill until they reached this blue 6-foot-tall fence that was covered with warnings telling people to stay back. Inside was the starting house of the luge track. They looked at each other and chucked their plastic sleds over this blue fence and climbed up and over themselves. Once they were inside, they kind of arranged themselves. They put their helmets on. They strapped on headlamps so they could see the course because there were no lights on. They thought, let's just all get in one sled, and with the added weight, we should go faster. And after doing it a couple more times, they climbed back over that blue fence and snuck out of the park without getting caught. The following weekend, those 3 same boys, along with 5 of their friends, returned, and they determined they would put 3 boys in the first sled, 3 boys in the second sled, and 2 boys in the final sled. The group decided they did not need helmets. They also decided not to bring headlamps because it would be more exhilarating to go flying down this track in the darkness. The first 3 boys climbed into the first sled and pushed off. At first, it was going exactly to plan, but then disaster struck. There was a metal chain that had been strung across one of the sections towards the bottom of the luge track, and they strike this chain at full speed. When it hit them, it instantly decapitated and killed one of the boys. It was a 17-year-old named Evan Caldwell, and the other 2 are thrown from the sled and landed unconscious. Back up at the starting house, this second group of boys thinks they've waited long enough, and they push off. They hit the chain in such a way that they kind of slipped under it. They were all thrown from their sled and kind of smashed into the track, but the worst injury was a broken ankle. And before they had a chance to yell up to the starting house, it was already too late. The third and final sled came bombing down. One of the 2 boys was a 17-year-old named Jordan Caldwell, and he too would be decapitated by the chain. And he was actually the twin brother of Evan Caldwell, the boy on the first sled who had also died. The other boy on the third sled would be thrown from the sled and would suffer grievous injuries as well. When the paramedics ultimately arrived within the hour, they found all of these boys spread out all over the track. But they discovered the twins were actually laying right next to each other, and none of these surviving boys had moved their bodies. The 6 survivors of this accident would walk away from it with life-changing head injuries and other medical issues, and with an indescribable sense of guilt, but they consider themselves lucky because at least they survived.
This is one of the saddest stories I've ever heard. This is Maryanne Beavenon. The world labeled her as the ugliest woman in the world, but no one ever stopped to ask who she really was. She was just a mother, fighting to survive. Mary was once a nurse in England. She was a beautiful woman, but everything changed after her husband, Thomas Beavenon, died in 1914. Soon after, she began to show signs of a rare condition called acromegaly, a disorder that caused her face and body to grow and distort painfully. People were staring at her all the time. Even the doctors weren't able to help. She had no money, she had no help, and she had to feed 4 of her children. Mary entered a contest, the Ugliest Woman in the World contest, and she won. Not out of pride, out of necessity. After that, she joined a circus to make some money. She stood on stage and she was laughed at. She was mocked, but she held it in. She endured it, all of it, because all the money she made went to her children. Mary endured cruelty for her children's future. Maryanne Beavenon was never ugly. She was brave, and her sacrifice was the most beautiful thing about her.
This insane mother killed her 3 kids while singing to them. Rachel Henry was a 22-year-old living in Oklahoma. She lost her mom when she was 18, which had a huge impact on her mental health. She got into substance abuse and eventually she lost her job. She then moved to Arizona with her 3 kids and lived at her aunt's house. But she was still addicted and broke. Her addiction was so bad, neighbors saw her walking around the street like a zombie. One night, she was alone at the house playing with her 3 kids when all of a sudden she began suffocating her 2-year-old daughter with a pillow. Even her 3-year-old son was punching and kicking Rachel to try and get her to stop, but it was no use. Once her daughter stopped moving, she carried her to the bedroom and wrapped her in a blanket to make it look like she was sleeping. Now she started chasing her 3-year-old son around the house. Luckily, the aunt came home just as this was happening. You won't believe what Rachel told her aunt. Hit the plus for part 2.
As we all know, there's been a new wave of conflict in the Middle East, where multiple air bases were under attack, including the one in Qatar. The United Arab Emirates strongly condemns the attack, considering it a blatant violation of the sovereignty of the state of Qatar and its airspace. The act is also a clear breach of international law and the United wisdom.
Biblical places that still exist. Jordan River, where Jesus was baptized. The rock that Moses struck and water came out. Jesus' tomb. River of Galilee that Jesus walked on. Red Sea that Moses split. Synagogue that Jesus went to. Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus was arrested. Place where Jesus healed the paralytic. Place where Jesus told Sermon on the Mount.